The Vralok nursery was nothing like the human word nursery suggested. There were no soft lights, no soothing colors, no sound but the sterile hum of life support systems. The walls were crystalline and cold, etched with alien sigils that pulsed faintly with bioluminescent energy. Every motion echoed, every breath seemed to trespass. Dr. Mara Ellis stood at the entrance, arms folded against the chill. She had seen laboratories, battlefields, and cryogenic vaults, but nothing as haunting as this place where children were raised without comfort. 6 cubs huddled near the heat vents, their dark-scaled bodies curled tightly together. They didn't look up when she entered. Their black eyes, faintly ringed with amber light, were dull and unfocused. She'd been told they were dangerous, feral even, but what she saw wasn't hostility. It was emptiness. The Vralok attendants moved like precise machines, tending to the young without a sound. They did not speak, touch, or soothe, only monitored. Their emotions compromised the discipline of the future warrior caste, one had explained. We removed the instinct generations ago. Mara's voice recorder clicked on. Observation log 14. Subject group Theta 3. Cub development continues under sensory deprivation conditions. No evidence of play behavior, motor response slow, emotional expression absent. She stopped recording. Her throat tightened. One of the cubs, smaller than the rest, trembled near the edge of the heating grid. Its scales flickered, a stress reflex she recognized from her xenopsychology studies. "Hey," she whispered, crouching down, ignoring the attendant's warning clicks. "You cold, little one?" The cub didn't respond, but it watched her hand. Its forked tongue flicked out once, testing the air. Slowly, cautiously, it shuffled closer, inch by inch, until it pressed its snout into her palm, the warmth of living skin. The attendants gasped. One dropped their data slate. "Unclean contact," hissed another. Mara ignored them. "Shh, it's okay," she murmured, brushing her thumb across the cub's scaled brow. Its muscles relaxed instantly. A sound, a soft, rumbling trill rose from its chest. The attendants froze in disbelief. That sound hadn't been recorded in over 200 years. By the time the artificial night cycle began, the cub hadn't left her side. 2 more crept closer, their luminous eyes curious, uncertain. She stayed still, speaking softly as she logged data. Her translator implant buzzed in her ear, quietly struggling to interpret the unfamiliar purrs and clicks. When fatigue finally took her, Mara leaned against the wall, data tablet still glowing faintly in her lap. The cubs gathered around her, one by one, curling against her body for warmth. Their small hearts beat against her ribs, a steady rhythm that lulled her to sleep. For the first time in recorded Vralok history, a brood fell asleep to the sound of another heartbeat. Outside the den, motion sensors flickered red. Security protocols activated. Silent alarms whispered across comms. In the command center, the elite guard captain watched the footage in disbelief. The human surrounded by the most dangerous offspring in the sector. His clawed hand tightened around his weapon. "Wake the council," he ordered. "Something impossible has happened."
A deep blue light filtered through the den's crystalline walls, scattering like water over the floor. The artificial dawn cycle had begun. Dr. Mara Ellis stirred beneath the weight of several warm, scaled bodies. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was, only the strange rhythm of tiny heartbeats pressed against her chest and arms. Then it came back to her. The Vralok cubs. They were sprawled across her like living blankets. One lay draped over her shoulder, tail coiled lazily around her neck. Another had tucked itself into the crook of her arm. The smallest, her little lost ember, was fast asleep against her side, snoring softly. A rare, helpless laugh escaped her. "You guys are going to get me in so much trouble." She shifted carefully, not wanting to wake them, and that's when she saw the reflection in the crystal wall. Shadows at the entrance. Dozens of them. The den doors slid open with a hiss. The light from the corridor spilled in, cold and silver. The elite guards stood there in full armor, 8 of them, faces hidden behind reflective visors, weapons lowered but ready. The attendants cowered behind them, their scaled hands trembling. Mara froze. The cubs stirred, startled by the sudden brightness. The smallest hissed, wings flaring instinctively. The others followed, 6 miniature warriors forming a protective circle around her. The largest of the soldiers stepped forward, his armor edged with crimson markings that gleamed like liquid metal. His voice, when he spoke, was low and hoarse, translated through her earpiece. "Human," he said slowly, "you entered the brood chamber and slept among the young." Mara straightened, heart pounding but tone calm. "I didn't mean to sleep. I was helping them stay warm. The heating system was failing." One of the attendants cried out, "Lies! The human seeks influence, contamination!" But the cubs hissed louder, tails coiling around her legs. The smallest bared its teeth, eyes bright with defiance. The sight silenced everyone. Vrala cubs were born without emotional imprinting. They shouldn't have defended anyone. Ever. The captain took another slow step forward, visor catching the blue light. When he spoke again, his voice wavered, thick with disbelief. "They protect you. They claim you." Mara's throat went dry. "I didn't do anything," she whispered. "They just wanted to be held." For several long seconds, the room was still. Then the captain reached up and touched a control on his helmet. The visor retracted, revealing a face scarred by war. Reptilian, powerful, but trembling. His eyes, slit-pupilled and amber, were wet. "In all our history, no cub has ever purred. No child has ever chosen. We thought that part of us was lost forever." The cubs, unbothered by the silence, resumed their soft purring against Mara's side. The sound filled the den, faint but unmistakable. A vibration of peace. One by one, the guards lowered their weapons. The captain turned away sharply, blinking hard as a tear tracked down his scaled cheek and fell to the floor. "Call the council," he ordered hoarsely. "They must see this with their own eyes."
By the time the summons came, the story had already outrun her. Every corridor in the Vrala colony whispered about the human who touched the brood. Guards glanced up as she passed, attendants bowed out of her way, and even the walls, alive with embedded sensors, seemed to hum with tension. Dr. Mara Ellis was escorted through a pair of immense silver doors into the Council of Fire and Flesh, where every Vralic elder gathered beneath a vaulted dome of living crystal. Each counselor sat upon a raised platform glowing with internal light, their scales painted in ceremonial ash. The air smelled faintly of ozone and fear. The cubs' footage played across a panoramic screen behind her. 6 tiny forms curled around one human woman, their soft purring echoing faintly in the chamber. "Begin," said the Chancellor, Tivar the Unyielding, his voice carrying a vibration that made the air quiver. "Dr. Mara Ellis of Seoul, you stand accused of breaching sacred isolation protocols, of contaminating the genetic sanctity of our young. What do you say for yourself?" Mara stood tall, hands clasped behind her back. "I say your young were freezing." A hiss rippled through the chamber. Several elders bared their teeth. "Sentiment, a primitive indulgence." One spat. Tivar raised a claw for silence. "Explain your actions, human." She took a steady breath. "I was observing the cubs. I saw one shivering, alone. Your attendants refused to help, so I did what any living being should do. I held it. Others came. They fell asleep. You defied doctrine, another counselor snapped. Your doctrine is killing them. They're not machines. They're children. They need contact, warmth, rhythm, something alive to tell them they're safe. The translator implants word to keep up with the heated exchange. For a moment, even the council seemed unsure how to respond. Then Tivar leaned forward, amber eyes locked on hers. We removed emotion from our kind to survive the old wars. Compassion was weakness. Warmth made us hesitate. That is why we live, and you nearly destroyed that balance. Maybe you survived, but you stopped living. Gasps echoed. The guards stiffened, but the Chancellor's gaze didn't waver. On the screen, one of the cubs shifted in its sleep, pressing closer to her recorded form. The purring sound filled the silence again, soft but undeniable. Tivar turned to face it, and something flickered across his expression, an old, buried memory. My hatchling once made that sound, before the purge. The chamber went utterly still. After a long pause, the Chancellor rose. Perhaps survival without soul is not life worth preserving. He turned back to Mara. The Council will allow your continued contact, under observation. We will study this human warmth. The attendants murmured among themselves, unsure whether to rejoice or recoil. Mara only nodded once. You'll find it's not contagious. It's just healing. And somewhere behind her, the elite guard captain stood in the shadows, eyes glimmering, not with suspicion anymore, but with hope he didn't yet understand.
Weeks passed. The Vralok nursery, once silent and sterile, now pulsed with life. The cubs grew stronger each day, their scales glinting with iridescent hues that changed with emotion. They played, wrestled, chirped, and purred. Their laughter, if the alien sound could be called that, echoed down the steel corridors and startled the attendants so much they froze mid-step. At first, the council tried to keep it clinical. Dozens of observers took readings, measuring hormone levels, neural activity, growth rates. But none of their data could capture what was happening. Something far deeper was taking root. Mara became a fixture in the den. She read to the cubs, taught them words from Earth languages, sang lullabies when their restlessness stirred. The young began mimicking her gestures, touching foreheads in imitation of her affection, curling together instead of sleeping alone. The attendants, once horrified, started sitting closer too, silent but curious. It spread like a quiet contagion, not weakness, but connection. The elite guard captain came often. He never spoke much, but he stood watch at the edge of the den every night. His name was Corin Val, though few dared speak it. A legend of the old wars, he had never been seen without armor, until the day he stepped inside the den unarmed. Mara noticed him hesitate by the doorway, claws flexing. "You can come closer," she said, gently. He shook his head. "I am not meant to touch the sacred brood. My presence brings fear." "Not anymore," she smiled. "They've seen you watching. They know you care." As if summoned, one of the cubs, Lost Ember, toddled forward, curious eyes glinting gold. It sniffed the air near the captain, then pressed its snout against his scaled knee. A low, uncertain rumble came from Corinval's chest. He froze, instinctively looking at Mara. "It's all right," she said softly. "He likes you." The captain lowered a trembling hand. His claw brushed the cub's crest. The small creature leaned into the touch, trilling with delight. A sound broke from Corinval's throat,
half laugh, half sob. He sank to one knee, covering his face as tears, real and unhidden, rolled down his hardened scales. The attendants gasped. No warrior had wept in living memory. The cub climbed into his arms, nuzzling his chest as if to comfort him. Mara said nothing. She just watched as the indomitable soldier, symbol of Rawlock discipline, held life itself like something sacred. That moment rippled through the colony. Word spread. The guard had cried. The story reached even the outer colonies, igniting debates, awe, and something stranger, envy. The council convened again, but this time there was no shouting. Chancellor Tivar merely said, "Perhaps warmth is not contamination, but the cure to our coldness." Mara looked through the observation window one last time. The cubs were asleep, curled around Corin Val, his massive frame still trembling faintly with emotion. For the first time in Vralock history, the brood did not dream of war. They dreamed of warmth. And across the galaxy, in every whispered retelling, humanity was no longer feared for its weapons or willpower, but for the one thing no empire could replicate: a heart that could make even warriors weep.